Back here to Live Now from Fox. We'll take a look at this really disturbing video. It has been making the rounds, going viral. This is out in Aurora, Colorado, and it's one that is making headlines, of course, all over the country, where the mayor of Aurora says Venezuelan gangs are overrunning apartment buildings there as part of an organized criminal effort. Local police have called the incidents isolated, but surveillance video from at least one of the complexes is very startling, as you can see from this video right here. Now, we want to go on for more on this story about what's happening in Aurora. We're joined by Fox News senior national correspondent William Lajeunesse. William.
Many say the problem began when the Biden-Harris team opened the border with migrant apprehensions from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, jumping from 17,000 in 2020 to 600,000 in 2022. So the administration created the CHNV program, which provided migrants from those four countries with humanitarian parole and invited them in. But auditors found widespread fraud in the program, migrants lying on their applications, sponsors using fraudulent identities, including dead people, and traffickers demanding payment from those they sponsored.
Abbott did choose to send immigrants to Chicago, which considers itself a sanctuary or welcoming city.
Yeah, you were asking Chuck Marino there, kind of what's next? Well, we have an idea. In 2019, Mayor Lori Lightfoot, she campaigned on the promise of keeping it as a sanctuary city, tweeting in part that the city must, quote, make sure every Chicagoan is safe regardless of citizenship status. And so to take a look at who else might be feeling the same way politically and thus might be a target for Governor Abbott and other migrants to come their way, we're going to break down where these sanctuaries are. Here are a couple of states, specifically 11 states that we're looking at that consider themselves a sanctuary for undocumented immigrants. Those include New York, Illinois, Colorado, New Mexico, California. And when it comes to cities within those states, there are different communities, municipalities, counties, et cetera, that also consider themselves with sanctuary policies. And these include, as we've been talking about, New York City with Eric Adams as the mayor. You've got Chicago here in Lori Lightfoot, who you just heard from, Denver, Columbus, Ohio in the Midwest, and then also Los Angeles. That's another one. And what the sanctuary city boils down to is, in most cases, local law enforcement will not report immigration status or assist federal agents in detaining undocumented immigrants. Sometimes
with that threat we face. Last year alone, ICE arrested illegal immigrants with 48,000 charges or convictions for assault, 11,000 for sex crimes, 1,800 for killing people, and other homicide-related offenses. And we have offenses that are so great, we're not even going to talk about them right now. They are so great. Last September, an illegal immigrant was arrested by San Francisco police for spousal abuse. ICE filed a detainer on the individual, but the detainer was denied, and the alien was released. Less than 10 days later, the same illegal immigrant was arrested for murder. Many cases like that. In another case, an alleged illegal gang member was arrested by the San Francisco Police Department more than 10 times between 2013 and 2017 for charges including domestic battery, assault, theft, and rape. But San Francisco refused to cooperate with ICE. You know that very well, don't you, Tom? You have a lot of problems with that. And he kept getting released. Over and over again, he was released. Sanctuary cities and states like California put innocent Americans at the mercy of hardened criminals, hardened murderers. Many House and Senate Democrats voted nearly unanimously in favor of sanctuary cities. Explain that. We're looking to have safe cities, folks, safe cities. They're also blocking the bed space we need on the omnibus to stop catch and release. Catch and release. We catch a killer, we have to release him. We need the extra beds so that we don't have to release him. Bed space is very important. It's being negotiated right now. Democrats' priority is to protect criminals, not to do what's right for our country. My priority and the priority of my administration is to serve, protect, and defend the citizens of the United States.
President Biden's border crisis has exploded. Governor Abbott is making big moves as Texas is drowning in illegal immigrants. He's now flying hundreds of them to the sanctuary city of Chicago, Illinois. People living there have been unhappy for months now over the resources flowing to the illegals while citizens are struggling. Just a quick flashback from not too long ago from black taxpayers in Chicago. Watch.
How dare this mayor and city council have the guts to give migrants $51 million.
They should not be housed in impoverished and marginalized black and brown communities where we have food shortages and homelessness.
We have not gotten anything for our community. And we are sick and tired of being sick and tired. Enough is enough.
Okay, that was May 31st. Can you imagine how they feel today? And they continue in that city, the citizens of Chicago, to be vocal. And they're about to get another load of illegal immigrants. Now, Abbott isn't the only one sending them there. These people come across the border and they say where they want to go. You saw Bill Maloogian pop up. He's been showing us this on a daily basis. Chicago is one of the places they want to go. And now let's get to the border.
Harris, you absolutely do. And those sanctuary cities better buckle up because they got a lot more coming their way. Take a look over my shoulder right now. We had yet another mass illegal crossing here in Lukeville, Arizona this morning. You're looking at hundreds of adult men from around the world, mostly from Africa, waiting for Border Patrol processing right now. Had a chance to talk to some of these guys. They're going all over the place. They told us Minnesota, New York, Chicago, and New Jersey, some of the cities they're heading to in the United States. And we'll show you how they got here. Take a look at this video we shot this morning. They were part of a group of more than 700 that came through a breach in the border wall, cut by human smugglers, and crossed illegally here into Lukeville. This happens every single morning out here, Harris. Arizona's Democrat governor, Katie Hobbs, last week said she was sending the National Guard down here. We've been in Lukeville all week. We have not seen a single National Guard soldier out here in the area of these mass crossings or helping with Border Patrol. We don't know where they're at, but you can see what Border Patrol is having to deal with every single morning out here. Then we'll take you out to Eagle Pass, Texas. Our live Fox News drone over the scene there, where Eagle Pass has been inundated in recent days as well. They had more than 10,000 illegal crossings there in a span of 3 days. You can see hundreds of those migrants still camping out, waiting for Border Patrol processing. They're coming in from all over the world there as well. Agents reporting in Eagle Pass they've encountered folks from Oman, Lebanon, Guinea, Albania, and Bangladesh. It's not just Venezuela and Guatemala anymore. And that is part of the reason why Governor Abbott is switching up his game plan. Take a look at this video. He is now flying illegal immigrants to sanctuary cities. This video you're looking at, the very first flight of 120 migrants, which landed at Chicago's O'Hare Airport Tuesday evening. He says he's going to start flying migrants to sanctuary cities, and Chicago in particular, for this reason. He tweeted this, quote, "Sanctuary City Chicago started obstructing and targeting our busing mission. Texas will now expand our operation to include flights to Chicago. Until Biden steps up to secure the border, we will continue to provide overwhelmed Texas border towns with much needed relief." And Harris,
clear something up that's been, in the news for the last 24 hours or so. Can you commit right now that you will indeed visit the U.S.-Mexico border, and will you do it soon?
Jeremy, let me tell you something. Yes, I will, and I have before. Listen, anybody, especially if you're from California, I've spent a lot of time on the border, and both going there physically and aware of the issues. But the reality of it is that we need to prioritize what's happening at the border, and we have to prioritize why people are going to the border. That dangerous trek to the United States-Mexico border. Do not come. Do not come. The United States will continue to enforce our laws and secure our border. There are legal methods by which migration can and should occur. But we, as one of our priorities, will discourage illegal migration.
At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border.
So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I mean, I don't understand the point that you're making.
Visit the border. Why not see what Americans are seeing in this crisis?
Well, we are going to the border. We have to deal with what's happening at the border. There's no question about that. That's not a debatable point. But we have to understand that there's a reason people are arriving at our border.
Micah, standing in front of an unfinished border wall in Sierra Vista, Arizona, the former president was confronted with yet another credible threat on his life. Here's what he had to say. Another possible assassination attempt thwarted.
Can I tell you something?
Sure.
We're in danger standing here talking.
Former President Trump catching up with Ali Bradley, border reporter.
So let's not talk any longer. No, I know about it, but they don't want me standing here. They don't want you standing here either. Have a good time. Thank you very much.
Hours later, federal authorities arrested 66-year-old Ronald Lee Searwood following a manhunt throughout Cochise County, Arizona. They say he posted threats to kill Trump, who was in Sierra Vista for a campaign event on border security.
We had a border czar who was the border czar. She loved the title, but she didn't want to do the work because she's lazy.
The former president attacked Vice President Harris on her handling of the southern border. Tonight, Vice President Harris addressed the border at the DNC.
I know the importance of safety and security, especially at our border.
Former President Trump posted on social media, she talked about the rule of law, but as border czar, she allowed 20 million people into our country, many of them criminals who are maiming and killing our people. One of those victims, 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungary, whose mother was at the border with the former president today.
Please take into consideration how important border control is, because we're losing very innocent people to heinous crimes that shouldn't be happening in the first place.
Earlier this year, the Senate killed an immigration bill. Some Democrats and nearly all Republicans voted against it, including Senator J.D. Vance.
I was there in the Senate when they tried to pass that border security bill, and it had nothing to do with border security.
Both parties blame the other for the failed border security bill. Tomorrow, the former president may pick up an endorsement from RFK Jr., who's officially filed paperwork to drop out of the presidential race.
Video captures a homeowner's quick thinking during an attempted armed robbery at their front door. The video was taken at about 9:45 a.m. on Friday, April 14th. It shows a suspect approach the front door of a home in East Haven, Connecticut, dressed as a delivery driver with a package. When someone comes to answer the door, the suspect keeps up the act, saying the package may be for them.
I don't think this is for you.
Video then shows the suspect rush the homeowner before being pushed back out of the doorway. The suspect can be seen in the video holding a gun. After that, he runs off to a nearby vehicle that quickly speeds away. Investigators say a series of tips led them to 37-year-old Xavier Arturo, the man they say is seen on the video. Officials also identified the getaway driver as 26-year-old Jean Carrasquillo Torres. Investigators say the pair hacked a plan for a home invasion where they would use zip ties to restrain the people inside the home while robbing them. Officials say the pair planned a second home invasion about an hour north in the city of Manchester. After executing a search warrant, investigators found more than a kilogram of fentanyl and, quote, items commonly used in the operation of a drug factory. Both suspects were arrested and now face multiple charges stemming from both the narcotics recovered and the attempted robbery.
Apartment complex in Aurora. We see men there entering an apartment building with several weapons, then busting down a door. All of this taking place at the apartments, which have become a crime hotspot in that city.
Vicente Arenas was at that complex today as people were moving out, saying they were scared for their safety.
This video is significant. It is the first time that we are getting an up-close look at some of the things that were happening inside this building. The video shows a group of men walking up a stairwell at the Edge Lowry apartment complex in Aurora. All of them appear to be carrying rifles and handguns, and the video shot earlier this month. One of the men can be seen talking on a cell phone. They all then gather around a door and go in. Another video clip shows men forcing a door open, but what or who they were searching for, not clear. The video was shot in the building where Cindy and Edward Romero lived until today. They loaded up their stuff and moved out. Cindy used to lock her front door.
Every day when we come home, we have to do this. Every time we go outside to take out the garbage, every time we try to go to bed at night, we have to keep it like this so nobody can kick in the door.
The couple's car and many others here were riddled with bullets after a shootout at the complex earlier this month. The Romeros say the trouble started when a large number of migrants began moving in. They had not been able to move out for different reasons.
We couldn't get any. We tried reaching out to the resources, but they told us since it wasn't actually a condemned building, we would have to wait until that was the issue, but we didn't want to wait for that. So the only help I got was after talking to you.
We showed Councilmember Danielle Jurinsky the video. Today, she helped the couple move out and find a new place to live.
The city nonprofits have lined up to help the migrants that have come here, but nobody is helping the American citizens, the residents that are trapped in these apartment complexes.
This issue of apartment complexes, migrant gangs, we talked about this at length last week. And I did ask you if you knew about armed people going around and intimidating people at these complexes. And you said you did know that this was happening to the apartment building owners, and to an extent that we knew it was happening to people who lived there. But my question is, when did you first see this video? And when did you know it was to the extent that we're seeing in this video?
Well, we've known, I think I put out a couple of weeks ago that we had formed the task force. We knew at that time that we had formed the law enforcement task force to root them out, that there was intimidation going on. And part of that intimidation certainly involves individuals with weapons.
Mr. Mayor, why Aurora? You know, I've got people from across the country sending me messages.
So I'm trying to trace it back right now. I can tell you, some things that are unconfirmed that I believe are true. I think we know that these gang elements are attracted to concentrations of Venezuelan migrants. That's unfortunately, there's a lot of criminality in Venezuela. It's basically a failed state. The role of the police department there is to protect the government. It's not to protect the people. And so, unfortunately, some of these criminal elements have come up with the migrants. It's my understanding that Venezuela does not share criminal histories with the United States, and so it's very difficult to vet them at the border. Yet they've been allowed to come in anyway. People can cross the border illegally, be arrested, and then receive humanitarian parole. To apply, they've applied for political asylum until their cases can be adjudicated. It's a terrible combination where they come into the country. They don't have access to a work permit for 6 months. They don't have resources. I think what happened, and again, I'm trying to trace this back, is that what happened is we had, we have some buildings that unfortunately are pretty run down, have a high vacancy rate or relatively low rent. And I think somebody placed them there. Is it an agency of the federal government, perhaps, using some of our local nonprofit partners here as a conduit? Because the city of Aurora took a position early on that we were not going to participate in the migrant crisis. We were not going to provide taxpayer support, and we were not even going to be a conduit for federal dollars to come in to provide assistance. This is not our problem. This is a problem created by the federal government at the border with bad policy. And so it's the federal government that needs to solve this problem, not the city of Aurora. But somehow we've gotten this problem. We inherited this problem involuntarily. And so I'm trying to walk it back and say, I believe that these people just didn't go there on their own. I think somebody put them there, and I'm trying to find out right now. And I have a meeting with a leader really understands the nonprofit organizations that provide assistance. Who provided this assistance? Who made this decision to put them there?
First day in office, I sent Congress a comprehensive plan on immigration reform. My friends on the other side have done nothing with that. Over and over, I've asked for resources to step up action at the border. In October, I asked Congress to fund for funding that would add another 22,000 additional border agents and officers, hundreds of new immigration judges to make the judgments on the spot, a new detection equipment to stop fentanyl from coming into the country. And by the way, I've worked with China and Mexico to slow the flow of fentanyl in the United States. As I speak, it's way down. So let me be clear. My team has been at the table for weeks now with a bipartisan group of senators to negotiate a deal, including border, because I believe we need significant policy changes at the border.
We had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists, all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere, all over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president. Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in caravans.
President Trump. Terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person coming in his administration, killed three American soldiers, killed three American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got through, but the idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people, that's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying. Make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come. Progress is still fragile, and you all know it. You know it better than I, many of you. And it requires a sustained commitment by all the parties, particularly the United States. We can't wall ourselves off from the problems that are not bound by borders. The threat of communicable disease like Zika, drug trafficking, climate change. No wall can be built.
Ever be reunited?
Children are brought here by coyotes and lots of bad people, cartels, and they're brought here, and they used to use them to get into our country. We now have as strong a border as we've ever had. We're over 400 miles of brand new wall. You see the numbers, and we let people in, but they have to come in legally. And they come. Let me just tell you, they built cages. You know, they used to say, I built the cages. And then they had a picture in a certain newspaper. And it was a picture of these horrible cages. And they said, look at these cages. President Trump built them. And then it was determined they were built in 2014. That was him.
Do you have a plan to reunite the kids?
Yes, we're working on it we're trying very hard. But a lot of these kids come out without the parents. They come over through cartels and through coyotes and through gangs.
But to ask about your immigration policy, Mr. Vice President, the Obama administration did fail to deliver immigration reform, which had been a key promise during the administration. It also presided over record deportations as well as family detentions at the border before changing course. So why should voters trust you with an immigration overhaul now?
I've made it very clear. Within 100 days, I'm going to send to the United States Congress a pathway to citizenship for over 11 million undocumented people. And all of those so-called dreamers, those DACA kids, they're going to be immediately certified again to be able to stay in this country and put on a path to citizenship. The idea that they are being sent home by this guy, and they want to do that, is they've gone to a country they've never seen before. I can imagine you're 5 years old, your parents are taking you across the Rio Grande River, and it's illegal. And you say, oh, no, Mom, leave me here. I'm not going to go with you. They've been here. Many of them are model citizens. Over 20,000 of them are first responders out there taking care of people during this crisis. We owe them. We owe them.
Kristen, he had 8 years to do what he said he was going to do. And I've changed without having a specific. We got rid of catch and release. We got rid of a lot of horrible things that they put in and that they lived with. But he had 8 years he was vice president. He did nothing.
Dealing with everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Over $1.3 billion. I was going to put him, what am I doing here?